Hi, my name's Chris Priest. I'm one of the GPs that's been involved in the New Models of Care pilot in Knaresborough, Boroughbridge and beyond. My understanding of the pilot was that there were two primary aims really. The first was to try and break down some of the barriers that already exist between disciplines and providers and try and refocus everyone's attention away from their individual organisation and back towards the bit that really matters, which is the patient at the centre of it. The second was to try and keep patients at home as much as possible and to really empower them to manage their own lives and their own illness as much as humanly possible. In a moment you're going to hear two case studies, and the aim of those is to really illustrate all of those processes in action.
The fantastic thing about being part of an integrated team is how many different expertise we've got right there within the team. We've got people that are from the district nurses that have got fantastic knowledge about the physical health, same with social care and then mental health side, and it's about sharing that awareness and upskilling each other. And also it's about being able to access it really quickly, which is in the patient's interest. There's also links with occupational therapists and physiotherapists and GPs, so it's really great to see patients get better quicker and feel more empowered. It's also great that I'm able to help them in ways that I wouldn't have been able to before by the new skills that I've learnt within the team and with the team support.
I met Mrs Potter earlier in the year when we were referred by the hospital when she was discharged. In that initial assessment, as a district nurse team, we are to really to assess holistically what Mrs Potter's needs were. She required us daily for wound care, pressure area care, and to support her generally in her well-being. It soon became apparent in getting to know Mrs Potter and Mrs Potter getting to know us that her mental health and well-being had certainly been affected by everything, and we were able to involve our mental health nurse who worked very closely with Mrs Potter.
I'm here at Mrs Potter's because the district nurses who were visiting her for wound dressing felt that she was maybe a little bit low in mood and needed help from the mental health support team. So I was able to automatically go out and see her in the next day and see how she was doing and talk to her and set up a plan on how to get her better and more stable. Understandably, when you have problems physically, it can impact your mental health. So we were able to set up an activity recording chart and work through some things and get her better and do some relaxation.
I was really poorly. My GP came and had got me admitted to Harrogate Hospital, and the same day they had to operate with a perforated bowel into my tummy. And I spent 2.5 weeks in intensive care and 8 weeks on Nidderdale ward, and then came home, and that's when all the teams came together to look after me at home. The district nurses were involved, my GPs and all the community services that I required. I really basically couldn't do anything much at all. I'd been laid up in bed for so long that all my strength and energy had gone. So I had to make sure that I started getting stronger. When Kiri came, I basically wasn't doing anything, but we made goals. And to start with was just to make a cup of tea and to walk about my own home as much as I could, and write down everything that I did in a day for Kiri to look at next time she came. And she was just such a good listener, and put everything into perspective of the good that I was doing, because I quite thought that I wasn't progressing, but in fact I really was. Ended up driving again, making my husband's meal, sending him back to work, because he'd been at home with me for 3.5 months caring for me. And basically everything just then came into place, and the more I did, the stronger I got. And now I go and do a little bit of shopping. I drive myself to my clinics from St Knaresborough into Leeds, to renal clinic and to my heart specialist, and I go to my doctors every day and keep myself busy again, washing and ironing and doing all the boring things.
What was fantastic with Mrs Potter is being able to each visit seeing her get better and better and actually taking a role in her own well-being and recovery. We're able to do activity sheets which she was filling in and setting herself goals and building upon them. She was becoming more motivated, brighter. Her husband was so happy with the progress she made, and it was just little steps at a time. And it was also great to hear feedback from the other team members that were going to see her, the district nurses, saying about how much brighter she was, how much she was more engaging in conversation. And at the end it was great to say goodbye, you're doing well.
From a nurse's perspective, certainly watching a patient throughout their journey within an integrated team has been extremely rewarding. The confidence that it gives us to know that we have the support from many different specialties.
I first met Mrs Wright after she was referred by the GP to the fast response team. She was referred late one afternoon, and one of my nursing colleagues initially went to see her at her own home. It was apparent that she was unable to manage at home on account of being unable to do the stairs, and her legs were increasingly getting very heavy for her. She wasn't able to access her commode, and things had come to a bit of a head, a bit of a crisis really. My colleague identified that because she wasn't being able to manage at home, she might benefit from a stay in a rehab unit. She wasn't acutely unwell, there was no need to send her to hospital. So she arranged for her to go into the fast response bed at Station View, which is a bed that's available for us for up to 2 weeks of rehabilitation. The following day I came to see Mrs Wright and did an initial assessment from a physiotherapy point of view. I looked at her mobility, we talked about her home circumstances, talked about her medical history and what we needed to achieve to get her home. It became apparent that the main thing was being able to do the stairs, the layout of a house meaning that she couldn't have a bed downstairs. After looking at her mobility, it was apparent that she wasn't taking her diuretics, so her legs were very swollen, and so that needed to be addressed. I came the following day and I brought with me the community pharmacist that we have available to the team, and she was able to go through Mrs Wright's medication and to look at what she should be taking, and able to go through and assess Mrs Wright's ability to self-medicate as well while she's in Station View.
I became involved with Mrs Wright after the referral came from the fast response team. They felt that Mrs Wright had some rehab potential, so therefore was referred to our team to promote independence and increase mobility, looking at her going home in the future. From a resource worker's point of view, we would promote independence, help her by assisting with personal care where needed, but then also encouraging her to do as much as she can herself, and we would do that gradually over a period of time, increasing the amount of the distance that she's walking over a period of time as well to improve that mobility, and referring on to the OTs and the therapy and feeding back to them what sort of things have been improving on and what sort of things maybe need a little bit more input from the other services.
The first information I received about Mrs Wright, or Shirley, was from a physiotherapist who had seen Shirley in the community and felt that she would benefit from having a bed here at Station View. Station View specialises in providing rehabilitation for people to enable them to live independently at home when they've been having difficulties either at home, or they may have had a stay in hospital and they're not quite ready to go back home after their stay in hospital. So here at Station View, my specific role as an occupational therapist is to help people do all of the activities that they would need to do at home on a normal day-to-day basis. So that would be things like getting up, getting themselves washed and dressed, preparing breakfast, making a hot drink. All of those sorts of things that we all take for granted and do on a day-to-day basis can be more difficult for people if they've had an operation or an injury, or if they've been struggling at home. And our job really is to gather information from the person and perhaps their friends and family as well, to find out how they were coping before they came to Station View, and really try to get them back to that state that they were in before they came here. So if they were independent before they came here, that's what we would aim to achieve. And certainly with Shirley was living at home independently. She was having some difficulties, but she wasn't receiving any formal care. She was getting herself washed and dressed, she was getting her own meals, and we are working so that she can achieve that again when she gets back home.
Working in the fast response team and the community care teams, it's really important to know that we've got beds like Station View available. In Mrs. Wright's case, the GP saw her and assessed that she wasn't medically unwell to necessitate a visit to hospital. But then for her to be able to access this bed and to have the expertise of the physiotherapists, occupational therapists, district nurses, community pharmacists, as well as the social care staff on site at Station View, all working together to rehabilitate Mrs. Wright with the goal of getting her back home and preventing the hospital admission.
I rang my GP because I was really dead beat and I wanted some sleep. I mean, I couldn't go on any longer. I was absolutely shattered. So she said, well, she would get in touch with the fast response team, and she did do. So anyway, they brought me here, and we managed to get into here. And I took it from here, and they put me into their fast response team room. How many days was I in? I was only in about a week in the fast response team room, and Ben, that's been to see you, he moved me straight away up there into this building here to get me going, did Ben. I had to have a complete rest before I could do anything. I couldn't do nothing at the time because I couldn't walk, because my leg and my knee was the size of a big football. They got me out of bed into a high chair, and that's how they started moving me, so that my feet would go to the ground. We only did it for about maybe 10 or 15 minutes just to get me started going. You understand me? You know, to get me really going. And I sort of progressed from there. And I walked to the dining room, just out at spur of moment. I thought, well, I've got to get cracking somehow. And I just did it. I can't tell you how I did it, but I just did it. Well, I made me tea yesterday, and we were told this morning, Maria and my friend opposite me, we were sat at the table, there were no staff about, and you've had the lady in with the little pretty blouse on, haven't you? And she come in, she says, right, you two, you've got to get your own tea and breakfast this morning. We didn't know what to look, we looked at each other, we didn't know what to do. Anyway, we managed it. They'd been up to see my house. They found my steps, my bedrooms, you know, going up to my bed, steep, my stairs. But we've been in that house 50 years, and of course it's not steep to me, but it's steep to them, but it's not to me. I've made up my mind, and I'm aiming for the bottom step. Once I get on that bottom step, I'll be away. I've got my confidence to do it, and I keep on saying I'm going to do it, and I'm determined I'm going to do it, because the doctor wants me back upstairs into my own bed, and I will do it. The more I walk, I can feel the strength coming back into the back of my legs, and my balance is coming back now. So I'm well on the way now. Well, I hope so, any road. They're absolutely wonderful, this staff. They've helped me a tremendous lot, and I can't down them. I can't, honest. They're great. They bend backwards for us.
So we've just seen two of the many people that have been helped by the new Care Models pilot. And I hope when you looked at those videos, you could see that there are an awful lot of different people involved in that care. So we have physiotherapists, occupational therapists, we had GPs, we had social care, we had mental health workers, all working very closely together in a way that I'd argue they've never done before. And that's got to be better for the patient. And equally, what I hope you've seen there is that those patients, at the end of the day, have been managed much more at home or in a home-like environment, and they're much more prepared to care for themselves going forwards in the future. That seems like the right thing to be doing. And I'm hopeful, therefore, that we can roll this out and make sure we're doing that across all of Harrogate and Rural District in the very near future. Thank you.